Hi, I'm Lydia Rackham, and welcome to this week's novel writing tutorial. Alright, first of all, let me say that this should be one of your most favorite things to do, creating this villain. Because without your villain, your main character will have nothing to do, there will be no conflict, no problem, and in essence, no story. So there is no point without your villain. Now, there are several different kinds of what you would call a villain. Man versus man, which is the most common. There's man versus nature. There is man versus self. And then there's man versus God, or man versus some sort of supernatural force like a spell or a curse. So an example of a man versus nature story would be like the movie Castaway, where he's thrown up onto this island and he just has to survive. So there's no evil person, there's just nature and the difficulty of actually staying alive day to day. If you have a good hero, then man versus self will probably be a part of all of your stories, because he'll have some problem, some flaw that he's going to have to struggle against. But if the man versus self is the central conflict of the story, then it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's the extreme example of where there is literally something inside of him that he is fighting against. This would also be, say, in like an addiction story, or someone fighting against depression, something like that, that is within themselves that is destructive and that they have to overcome. Man versus the God is a lot more, it's rarer. I don't really see much of that in fiction. You do see man versus a god, little g, like Zeus, or, some Norse god or something like that. But I would almost classify that as a man versus man. It's just like regular man versus man with lots of power. But man versus the spell, that's the essence of every single fairy tale that there is. But right now we're going to concentrate on the man versus man, because that's, again, it's the most common and the most difficult to get right and avoid cliches. So here we go. First of all, what you do not do. Just like with the heroes, you need to avoid cliches. So all of those melodramatic cliches that you can think of, the wild maniacal laughter, the mustache twisting, the hands rubbing, the evil lair, the stupid minions who never get anything right, and the villain's just like, oh, my life is ruined because I have stupid little minions who can never do anything right, so I have to go do it myself. Unless you're writing something that's slightly comical like that and is supposed to be like that, don't do that. Please avoid that cliche, and also avoid the unnecessary killing of minions. I see that even in modern, nowadays, action films and stuff like that, where somebody brings news that the villain doesn't like, but it's true, but he doesn't like it, so he shoots his own guy. I always thought that was the most boneheaded, stupid thing ever. I mean, if you kill people who come and tell you the truth, nobody's going to tell you the truth. They're just going to lie to you, and pretty soon you are not going to know anything, and all your plans are going to be based on fantasies that they've told you because they're scared you're going to shoot them. Either that, or all you guys are going to quit, and then you're going to be alone in your little lair trying to do everything by yourself. So don't do that either, because everybody nowadays just rolls their eyes at that and they're like, well, that was stupid, you just shot your best guy. Do not do the whole, I am conquering the world so I can destroy it. Why? Like what? Why would you want to destroy it? Then what are you going to be king of? If you're just sitting around by yourself on your throne looking at a pile of ash. No. The motivation has to be something better than that. So now to the interesting part. what you do. The villain is the hero of his own story. He believes that what he is doing is absolutely right. And if he doesn't think that what he actually is doing this moment is right, he believes that he's doing it for the right reasons, for the good of either himself or someone he cares about, or even the world. The villain is inwardly righteous. He or she believes that he is right. And that has to be the driving force behind everything that he does. And then the interesting part would be the times when he doubts it, where he kind of thinks to himself, ooh, should I have done that? And that's what makes a villain interesting. Just like the hero, you need to make your villain real. He needs to have a family background and history and friends, likes and dislikes and hobbies and things that he enjoys that are just recreational, that have nothing to do with the evil plot. Just fun stuff. Like, does he like golf? Or does he go hunting? Or does she like dancing? Or does she like painting? Or does she have this really great friend that knows nothing about all of the evil schemes that she is getting into? But then, different from the hero, you need to have the villain take a turn in his past somewhere that made him choose this path and not the path of a good person. And when I say good, I just mean someone who is flawed but has made the right choices. And this person has, for whatever reason, made the wrong choices again and again and again. Well, what sparked that? What made that happen? Apart from them being an insane psychopath, which, you know, like in the series Sherlock, Moriarty is an insane psychopath. He's a genius psychopath, and that works fine because Sherlock is at his level of mental brilliance, but he's grounded and moral and logical and has a heart, and Moriarty does not, so he's the exact opposite. So you have to make your villain have made the exact opposite choices of your hero, but if you rewound them, they might be the same person when they were 10, but they just went off in different directions. But why? You need to know why. And I think this is the most important bit about making a good villain. He or she has to have some vulnerability in there somewhere. Some beautiful thing about them. Whether it's, well, it can't just be their appearance, but that can be a start, that they can be beautiful on the outside and beautiful to look at, but they need to have something inside of them that strikes you with regret. That, if they had just done this, or if someone had just said to them at this moment this important thing that they needed to hear, then maybe they wouldn't have gone down this path. Maybe they wouldn't have done that. So this in the midst of this darkness, there needs to be some sort of shining something inside there that you can see, because that will make him or her so compelling. Hopefully just as interesting as your hero. Now, the villain can sometimes be confused with an anti-hero. Now, an anti-hero can become the villain, or the villain can become an anti-hero, or an anti-hero can just be that throughout, or the anti-hero can flip over into a hero. It's a very flexible person, that anti-hero. An anti-hero is just somebody who is a little shady, they might flip this way, they might flip that way. And they are abounding in the kind of things that make them compelling, those flaws, those tragedies, that shining beauty somewhere in there that makes everybody go, oh, come on, you can do it. Come on, you can be different. Nobody really cheers for the villain. Like, they see why they're like that, but they're not like, oh, come on. They're like, kill him at the end of it, because he has repeatedly made the wrong choices and has really damaged the hero. And so nobody is really that sad when the villain bites the dust. But with the antagonist, if they start making the bad choices again, you're just kind of like, no, please. And so those are really interesting characters to write too. Very interesting to write. That's why Loki has such a huge fan base right now, because that's what he's called. He is an anti-hero because he cries. He cries. I would also call Khan in the new Star Trek. See, he was an anti-hero through almost the entire film. And then they flipped him to the villain because he had killed the real villain. But the man had legitimate heartache going on, which made you kind of like, at the end, you're like, oh man, darn it. And you kind of want him to come back in another one and see what he does next time. So you may have guessed it, you need to do a character interview for your villain also. And don't skip anything, take your time and make him or her real, living, breathing, and make all of his or her choices legitimate, not just because you need the plot to happen this particular way. It needs to be something that he would do, and there's a good reason for it. So, avoid cliches. No cackling, no mustache twisting. If you have an evil lair, it had better be awesome. No unnecessary killing of minions. And no 2D-ness. No, I conquer the world because I want to conquer the world, because that's boring. Don't be boring. Instead, make your villain real, dynamic, living, breathing, with a past and a tragedy, and then something gorgeous in there. Something that makes you regret that he made the choices that he made. And if you do that, you will have the thunder and lightning and earthquakes and storms sufficient enough to test your hero and make your hero come out a better person and a stronger one at the end of the story. Your villain is essential. He is the foundation of your story. So make him a good one. For homework, I want you to read Milton's Paradise Lost. It's a perfect example of taking a villain, a 2D sort of villain, and making him an actual real person. And I think it's actually probably a lot more realistic than a lot of people think. So read it and tell me what you think.